What up, y'all? It's your boy Ben here. We're back at it again. Right now, you're already looking at that because it means the 5-win streak event is here. Whether you loved it, whether you were some of those crazy folks who said make it 10, make it 30, crazy, like I said, you only need to win 5 in a row in order to get your next gold emblem. And so we're going to talk about the best decks, their strategies to close in that gap so that you can get this as painlessly as possible. So let's go ahead and get into it. All right, y'all, we're gonna go through 10 decks. That's right, there's 10 of these decks that I feel like is going to give you that better chance, because with every single card game that you play, or again games in general, there is a thing called RNG. You leave it up there into the wild, but hopefully these decks close that gap for you, so that way, like I said before, you just have your better shot, and that's all you can take. At the end of the day, these games are meant to be fun, but if you enjoy winning and enjoy getting these emblems, these decks are for you. And if you don't use any of these decks and you already have something in mind as you're like working your way towards it, let me know in the comments down below. What's your deck? What's your go-to deck? If it's not this, or if it's one of these, let me know. I'm really excited to talk with y'all. So first and foremost, you got Mewtwo EX, and I think that this build is like one of the better builds, more consistent builds that we're seeing. Obviously, you have your Gardevoir and your Mewtwo EX fully maxed out at 2. You have your 1 copy of Mew EX to get there faster if you're going against the mirror, but also it's just a good move, good backup move to have if you don't have your Mewtwo EXs and you're breaking on those. I think it's super important here that blue is included, because folks who are in the mirror do have the Mew ready, and so instead of dealing 150, they have to have the Giovanni, because then they only can deal 140. So that puts you in a good spot here. When you're in the mirror, the best thing for you to do is to make sure that you get 1 knockout point, like knock out one of these guys, because once you get the 1 knockout point, then you can just take out a Mewtwo EX on that backswing. Mythical Slab is in here to make everything consistent with your draws, and so it's good. You're really looking to get your stage 1s and everything else like that. You follow the flow chart for Mewtwo EX, pretty standard, pretty good, pretty strong. The other titan of the meta is Gyarados EX, which is another strong one to have. You have your Judgedon up front while you build up your Magikarp and your Froakie in the back. You are aiming to put your energies on Gyarados EX, and then you will look to have Greninja there to be helpful. A great starting line would be having Judgedon in front, second Judgedon in the back, and then a Magikarp and a Froakie. That way you're able to deal damage between the 2 Judgedons when they attack you, and a Greninja if you eventually get to it, and then finishing everything off because of the chip damage that the opponent's receiving with your Gyarados EX here. There are some other builds that are like looking to use like Sabrina and things like that. I think keeping it clean to just these like Leaf and Misty to like pivot between Judgedon when you're ready, between the 2, or needing to get your Froakie out and like keep the energy on there if like need be. But I think this is key because your sweeper Gyarados EXs really takes care of all of the Pokemon that's out there, especially with the tip damage from Judgedon and Greninja. And here is the third pillar of like what is to believe like probably the top tier decks as well, and it's the Pikachu deck. And in this format right now, this build is seeing a lot more play, primarily because you have your Zebstrika and you have your Electabuzz. So we all know Pikachu just does a lot because you're able to fill out your bench with 2, 4, 5, 6, 7 basics. So you're essentially like guaranteeing yourself like 90 damage. A lot of the times you have your Zapdos who can deal up to 200 if you're lucky. And the key thing here is that your Zebstrika is able to target the Gyarados, the things that are hiding behind the Judgedon. And the keynote with Gyarados is Magikarp gets knocked out in 1 shot with the Zebstrika. Because the Magikarp is only 30 HP, and then against Mewtwo, Ralts gets knocked out in 2. So like these, this being only 1 energy is huge there. Electabuzz is kind of like if you can't get a Blitzel or a Zebstrika going and you have the Electabuzz, you're okay with dealing with 2 energy if you can start attacking that back line right away. Again, you want to keep your momentum going using your switches, your X speeds, your Sabrinas to really control the board, and Giovanni is clutch much here because Pikachu EX can now hit those 100 HP mons and clear those out with the Giovanni to take that sneak point away from folks, because a lot of times people don't believe that you can reach there without it. As we continue and going through the best decks that could really hit home here, Celebi, it can do a lot of damage. We're starting to see Celebi stabilize and really kind of pop off here and there. This actually just won a tournament most recently, not this exact build, but Celebi with the mixture of Executor EX, and it's just has been shown because of the Executor inclusion in here. And so this idea of having your tank mon build up front, or having your Celebi continue to build up those powerful blooms while you're looking for your superior, your Ericas, and your potion to keep everything safe is great. What you can play around with is adding more of these executes in there, and maybe not having the XP. So you have execute, an Executor, 2 and 2, and then you take out the XPs. You can play with that way, have more Pokemon, and have more chances of getting your tanks out, because that 160, having to deal with 2 Ericas and a potion on top of that, you're dealing another 120. It's very hard for your opponent to get through that. And at that point, you're dealing at minimum 40 damage while building up your backline, while building up a Celebi sweep. So the one thing that you really need to look out for is your opponent building up their Tauros? Is your opponent building up a Mew to try to get you back with the powerful bloom on their end? And little things like that. But this deck can go up against fire decks with no problem, especially if you get this Celebi going. Coming in at number 5, we have the Charizard EX deck, and I really like this version of the build. And so if you see this, typically what you could do is you have 2 Growlithes, 2 Arcanine EXs, you take out the Mew, and you take out you could take out the Sabrina, keep the Leaf in to switch out the Moltres for free. So you could do that. You essentially take out the Sabrina because you know that your Charizard is going to be yoked up with all the energy from the Moltres EX, and so that way you can still clear through Pokemon without a worry with that. However, why I like the Mew EX here is because if you have your Moltres out there fire dancing, your sweeper, your main strong powerful sweeper is Charizard EX, but your fire energy can be dedicated to building up your Mew EX, or it can then your Inferno Dance can then power up your other fire type Pokemon. So you are literally splitting up energy in the most efficient ways in that sense, and then really allowing your Mew EX to really build up on that backswing to clear up any tougher matchups that you may or may not have. And then you have your Charizard that can build up or lean into your Arcanine for that. Having 3 options of attack here always feels really good to me, so I really like this version of it. However, if you feel more comfortable with 2 Growlithe, 2 Arcanines, by all means, there's nothing wrong with that either. So this is a cook, but let's talk about it here. We have Starmie EX, and we have Lumineon, and we have Farfetch'd. There was a video of this earlier on the channel, so if you haven't checked it out, please make sure that you do so. And this deck cracks. Literally it slaps. I'm making a pun for Farfetch'd because it is so good. You have Lumineon with a free retreat cost, so that way you can keep the energy and pivot around. You have Starmie EX with a free retreat cost, so you keep the energy around, and Farfetch'd with only 1 energy to pivot here, right? And then from there, Lumineon clears Pokemon with that 50 damage, or you have Farfetch'd that deals the damage to your active spot. What you really want to do and what you want to focus on is dealing damage with Farfetch'd or dealing damage with Lumineon, and then clearing everything up with the Starmie, because 2 energy for 90 damage just wins you games. If you have any of these up front and you hit it with a Misty and you take your energy advantage away from your opponent, it's pretty good. There's really nothing anyone can really do against this 90 on turn 2. It's too hard, it's too fast, and if you're looking for those quicker games, this is in the game for a reason, so by all means, go for it. Remember when I told you all that Celebi was making a splash? Well, a lot of that again has to do with this tank of a mon, and we can see here the Executor is really building up a name for itself, and this deck is great as well. So you're really looking to build up your executes, and then you have your baby Executor, which can deal up to 60 damage, or your EXs, which can deal up to 80 damage. And since this is only 1 energy, you can build up your Celebi EX or your Mew EX in the back pretty easily, because these guys up front are going to live. And that's just what it comes down to. Then you have your Ericas, you have double Potion, double Erica, double Sabrina to slow them down, a Giovanni to hit those touch points, and then a Leaf on top of that to then switch out if it is getting too dire in there, to take that out, put up the other Execute, and continue that again. It can be very demoralizing to an opponent who feels like, hey, they're down to 40 HP. You hit them with an Erica, you hit them with the double Potion, that 40 HP then turns into 90, 110, 130, and your opponent's like, I gotta do this all over again. So that I really liked the wall of this Mon, but the fact that it still chips away and attacks really sets you up to sweep with either of these two. Coming at number 8, we have the Fighting Style deck. This deck is really smooth, and I really love how it just pivots around. Everything is just a 1 retreat cost. You have your Primate, which allows you to evolve first. So when you're going first, this just feels really good because you're able to attack for 50 right away. If you are a gambling person, you can go for Focus Fist. If not, and you want your consistent damage, you can do the Genetic Apex, which does 20 damage. You don't want to deal the Promo Minky because getting damage to yourself, you're not really looking to use energy here for that. You want to dedicate your energy to the Aerodactyl EX and the Marshadow. This ability, Primal Law, can come in handy. Sometimes there are games where it doesn't matter. What's really important here is that for just 2 energy, you are dealing 80, or for just 2 energy, you're dealing 100. And so this is kind of like your sweepers in the sense that comes through here, and your one of Hitmonlee kind of again attacks those top meta decks that are trying to set up a wall in front of you and then deal with things in the back. Charmander goes away, Magikarp goes away, Ralts goes away, and even the bench Pokemon that Pikachu goes out to, if they're not the big heavy Zapdos, can easily go away to a couple of kicks from Marshadow here. This build is pretty sweet. It's topped first place in a couple of tournaments as well, and essentially what you're doing is that you are chipping away at your opponent, and you can easily pivot if they are an EX heavy deck. You are going to clean sweep them out of the game with the Tauros, because Tauros deals 120 or 130. That's why there's 2 Giovannis in here, and that 130 clears out. Without Giovanni, you're already clearing out Pikachu. With the 130, you're clearing out Mew, and you're clearing out Celebi. And then you have Pokemon like Charizard or Gyarados with that high HP, but in comes Drudgeodon, where they're lowering that health. In comes Greninja, where they're lowering that health, and then putting them in range for the Tauros. What I love about this deck is that every single Pokemon is only worth 1 point, and so having to go through 3 Pokemon, especially when you're using your pivots like Leaf to kind of switch in, switch out, save the health so that way they can come back with a powerful backswing, really puts your opponent on the back heel. And so if you have a lot of fun playing with chess pieces in a sense and moving things on the board to really optimize your attack, then I would tell you to try this deck out because it is meant for you. And then, like, how could we not talk about a Misty deck? And it's a Misty deck. It's just what it is. And you have Misty here, you have Articuno EX, you roll the heads, you see if you play the game or not. If you get 1 head, you have your Starmie EX powered up, you have your Articuno EX powered up, dealing 40 right away, knowing that you're going into 80 the next turn. Crazy. You can slow roll them down with Sabrina. You can leaf out of there to preserve the Articuno EX, and it's just game. It's just game. With Misty, you can roll it for you. You can definitely cheese it out, and so that's good. But what I will say to this though is that even in the non-Misty games, this core can still do well in random matches, and so I say, try your luck as well too. If you're feeling lucky and you want to feel lucky for 5 games, by all means, go for it. So those were my top 10 decks for you all. How are we feeling? Did you get it last time? Did you not? Are you looking forward to this? What deck are you playing? All these questions, please answer them down below. I'm excited to hear how this experience is for you all. And so keep at it, y'all, and good luck to everyone. Until the next time, y'all. Peace.